Hello everyone. I just wanted to go through some important rules about factoring because I believe that factoring is the most important thing you really need to learn in your math classes, and it will help you throughout this class and throughout other classes. So what I want to go through is how to factor a polynomial. The most important thing you need to check and be aware of is that you always want to check first to see if there is a greatest common factor. So always do that first. There may not be, but always check to see if there's a greatest common factor and factor that out first. Then, if there are 4 terms in your polynomial, you'll just want to see if you can factor by grouping. And I'm not going to go through that method right now directly, but that's something that you will see in your textbook, and you can check other resources for that as well, whether it's from your textbook or Khan Academy or mathtv.com. You can see how to factor by grouping. If there are 3 terms, we're going to factor by the AC method or reverse FOIL. I believe your textbook uses the term reverse FOIL, but AC method is really important. I noticed that a bunch of you know how to factor a polynomial that's of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, when a, the first number or coefficient in front of the squared term, is a 1. But once that's not a 1, that's where I see you running into some difficulty. So that's the example I'm going to go through today. If there are 2 terms, there are 3 other methods that we would use to factor after checking for the greatest common factor, and that is checking for the difference of squares, the difference of cubes, and the sum of cubes. If none of these methods apply, then it probably can't be factored, and we would consider that prime. Now, don't jump to the conclusion that your polynomial is prime and can't be factored just because you don't get an answer right away. Check through it, and let's look at a challenging example here just to see how that works. So let's go here. We're factoring a trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. We call this the AC method. The first thing is to identify a, b, and c. And I see my cat Chloe is coming into the picture right now, so we'll just ignore her for now. So in this example, 6x squared plus 5x minus 4, we look at the coefficients of all our terms, and we identify a is equal to 6, b is equal to 5, and c is equal to a negative 4. It's very important that you include the sign that goes along with that coefficient. The reason this is called the AC method is that the next thing we do is we multiply a times c. And in this case, 6 times negative 4 is equal to negative 24. And there's her tail. Then we look at all the pairs of factors of that number that we just got, negative 24. So I listed them all here because sometimes you have to list a lot of them. Sometimes you only have 2 pairs or 4 pairs. But here I'm going to list them all. Negative 1 times 24 is equal to negative 24. 1 times negative 24. And when we have a negative number that we're trying to find 2 factors of, one of them has to be positive and one has to be negative. We've got negative 2 times 12, and then positive 2 times negative 12. Negative 3 times 8, and 3 times negative 8. Negative 4 times 6, and 4 times negative 6. 5 is not a factor of negative 24, but we go through all of them until we find all the possible pairs. Then what we do is we decide by checking which of the pairs of factors add up to b. So in our example, b is equal to 5. So we look through all our pairs of factors and we find that the 2 numbers, the 2 factors that add up to 5, in this case is negative 3 and 8. Because negative 3 plus 8 will equal 5. So those are the numbers that we are going to use, and we're actually going to be using the grouping method at this point. Let's see if I can get my kitty to go down now. Okie doke. So here are 2 numbers, negative 3 plus 8, and what we do is we replace the 5x with negative 3 plus 8 times x. So instead of having 5x, we have negative 3 plus 8. And then we're going to actually distribute that x so that we have 6x squared plus minus 3x plus 8x minus 4. And this is where we are going to rewrite our two terms straight across. And let me move this up a little bit more so we can see that. And this is where we use grouping. So when we are factoring by grouping, we are looking at this pair of terms plus this pair of terms. So what we're doing is just factoring out the greatest common factor here, and these two, and factoring out the greatest common factor here for these two. So for these two, 6x squared minus 3x, the greatest common factor is 3x. Excuse me, now that I have cat hair going up my nose. So we've got to factor out the 3x, and we get 3x times 2x minus 1 is the same thing as 6x squared minus 3x. And then for these two, we're factoring out the greatest common factor of 4 and get 4 times 2x minus 1. We still have a plus sign in the middle here. But now we've got this factored half and this factored half, and both of those two have a common factor of 2x minus 1. So when we factor by grouping, we complete this by saying 3x plus 4 in the first set of parentheses times 2x minus 1, which is the common factor. And that is our factoring of the trinomial. Always want to go back and check your factoring by using the FOIL method. So here we multiply the first times the first, 3x times 2x, and then we multiply the outer, 3x times minus 1, and then the inner, 4 times 2x, and then the last, 4 times minus 1. And as you see, when we get our 4 terms, we combine our like terms, and we get 6x squared plus 5x minus 4, which is the trinomial we started out with. If you have any questions about this method, let me know. What I've provided you with is a worksheet here, so you can put your trinomial in here and work through all the steps to make sure that you are able to factor a trinomial using the AC method. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope this is helpful for you.